Hello, Cassis Church. This is Andy Hare. Just want to share a short video with you. Um, I hope you're all well. I hope that the recent times have been okay for you. It's been a strange time. I work for the NHS, so my day to day life hasn't changed an awful lot, but I have found that I've had more time. I don't know whether you have, and now more time can be a blessing. It can be a bit of a curse sometimes. Um, I find with the more time I have, there's more of a temptation to use it unwisely. I can gravitate towards Netflix or watching more movies or just zoning out somehow. And I've been thinking about prayer, about how we can possibly pray more. And I was looking at the story about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, which is in all the Gospels, but I've been looking at the one in Mark 14, and it's a story really about the battle of wills that are inside every Christian. Um, Sorry, that's my dog barking. One second. The battle of wills in the heart of every single person that wants to follow Christ. And Gethsemane means olive press. And I think it's a great analogy for the Christian life that there's often pressure that we have on ourselves, pressure to either live out the gospel or to live out kind of our own path, our own will. Jesus in this story is going through a tremendous pressure to choose the will of God over his own will. And we can find ourselves in that situation over and over again. We will never face the cross like he had to, but we have our own cross to bear in some sense. We have to continually put our lives before God and pray that his will be done. And that wine press, that olive press is an image of olives being squeezed so that the oil comes out. So too, when our lives are squeezed, the things of God hopefully come out. That's the idea. But there is a part of us that doesn't want the will of God. There's a part of me that is the part that I think God lives in me, where I'd love to pray more. I'd love to read my Bible more. I love to be more loving, more kind, more fruits of the Holy Spirit. But there is also a part of me, sometimes it feels like a big part of me, that doesn't want to be loving and wants to do what I want to do, what I want to do. And I don't want to be friendly to people sometimes. And I want to not forgive. And I want to hold on to grudges and feel sorry for myself, etc., etc. Here in this story, Jesus takes his three closest disciples, James, John, and Peter, and he takes them to see his humanity. He's already taken them to the Mount of Transfiguration, which was really a display of his divinity. But here is the rawness of his humanity. And they famously fall asleep, right? And I think that's it represents a spiritual sleepiness, sluggishness that can come over us, where if we're not paying attention to ourselves and to the world, we can easily just gravitate towards that. In other words, we have to be deliberate and willful in terms of following Christ. And his remedy for their sleepiness is this. He says in verse 38 of chapter 14, watch and pray that you will not enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. He doesn't say what to watch. Have you ever wondered about sometimes the verses in the Bible, what Jesus says? It's like, oh, I wish you could explain it a bit more. Like, what did you mean by that? I don't think he meant to the disciples, could you just watch these olives growing in this olive grove, right? That would be a bit odd. I think he was saying, actually, watch your own souls. Be vigilant over yourselves. There's temptation all around. Temptation to look like the world, temptation to sound like the world, a temptation to switch off, a temptation to follow your own path. But you have to, through prayer, govern yourself, be vigilant about yourself. And the early church really took this up. If you look at the early church, which I've been looking at through this amazing book called Water from a Deep Well, which we had as part of our WTC course, which is a fantastic course for anyone who wants to study theology. Little plug there. That's all about different histories of the church. And the early church really took this seriously about watching their own souls, and they would pray at regular times. You may have heard of the prayer hours, which the sort of more high end of the church would follow. They would regularly pray throughout their day in order to keep watch over their souls. If you think of it from a physical point of view, if you were trying to lose weight or exercise, you would, in a sense, be watching over your own bodies, right? You'd be watching your weight. We even have Weight Watchers. You'd be mindful about what you're eating. You'd be willfully exercising. You know, we wouldn't dream of exercising based on how we feel, because you would never end up exercising. I like to run, but I cannot run if I just go by. You know, I will only do it when I feel like doing it, because I will never do it. And the early church understood this, and they understood the battle between the flesh and the spirit, which Paul talks about in Galatians. And to break through the flesh, break through that part of us that wants to follow our own will and wants to follow the world, we have to pray. We have to pray. And again, prayer is something that I decided a little while ago is not something I can do based on my feelings. I have to willfully choose to pray. So this is going to sound a bit strange, but I've got it in front of me, you can't see it, but I've written sort of a schedule for my day, where I just try to, on a regular basis during my day, tune in with God. I don't pray for long. It may only be a moment, it may be 5 minutes, but roughly every 3 hours, and it can be different for different people, I just have to remind myself to pray. Now that might sound a bit fanatical, but if I don't do that, what happens is my flesh takes over, and I will just end up, like I said at the beginning, tuning into things that aren't so good for my soul. So I, for instance, when I put the kids to bed at night, which I often do, there's a huge temptation after a long day of work, putting the kids to bed, of just going down the stairs and just zoning out in front of the TV. And I do that sometimes. But I've chosen to have a habit of, I pray, even if it's just 5 minutes, just to quickly pray, quickly connect with God. And then in that time, it might lead me to pray a bit more. It might lead me to read the Bible. It might lead me to send an encouraging text to someone, or to think about someone. Otherwise, what will happen is I will just be governed by my flesh. So I think that's what Jesus is saying to his disciples. You've got to watch and pray. There's temptation always around, but watch over your own soul. And in these times when we have more time, I want to encourage you to watch over your souls and connect with God. Otherwise, there's a danger that we may be asleep spiritually. So bless you. Thank you for listening. I've gone over my time limit, so I apologize. But I really pray for you to develop a prayer life which connects with God during your day. God bless you.